Hey, good morning. Um, I was reading the Bible this morning, and it shouldn't surprise you. I'm a Bible man. I surrendered my life to Christ 39 years ago. It was actually further than that, but it was too confusing then. I was 11, 1974. I walked into this small meeting. Somebody spoke about Jesus. It never gave sense to me. There was peace in my heart, but confusion in my head. But 6 years later, in 1980, I reached a point of personal conviction. And I surrendered my life to the Lord because I heeded the call. I know I'm going with this. I heeded the call where Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door of your heart and I'm knocking. And he says, let me in. And I came in. And then a lot of church people use the term accepting Jesus as your personal Savior. That's what they use. The Bible says, I plead by the mercies of God that you present your body as a living sacrifice. And this morning, follow me, I know I'm going with this. This morning I read the book of Matthew 18, where Jesus Christ says, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm in their midst. What am I saying to you? I'm saying to you, everything I see as my religion, everything I see as my faith takes place in my personal space. As an individual, I did not draw a petition to call myself a child of God because there are benefits God extended me. I'm talking about my personal belief now, the belief you are trying to regulate, the belief the Constitution is protecting. I came from a family of 7 people. And at the point I surrendered my life to the Lord, I was the youngest. One day my mom says to me, what you telling me now about Jesus, your dad and I heard in 1946. Now, I was telling my mother that in 1980 that I've surrendered my life to the Lord. We Christians believe Romans 12. I plead with you to surrender your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable worship. Now, when I meet someone who has done that, and someone who has done, it could be 2 or 3. Listen, we may meet at Mug and Bean over a cup of coffee every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And Jesus, our Lord, in whom we believe, and the Holy Scriptures, the Bible, our faith is based on, says that's church. Now, we're a group that meets at Mug and Bean Mimosa Mall every Thursday. There could be another group of 5 people who meet at Cresta Mall in Johannesburg, 400 kilometers away, who share the same conviction, and they meet at Ocean Basket. There could yet be another group that meets at Canal Walk in Cape Town on Saturday. No constitution, no pastor. As a matter of fact, let me draw my example from my personal experience. And there are a few preachers who were there, Pastor Musasono and Themba Khadebe, Cebisa Dwaba. We, for the first 4 years of my Christian walk, 4 years, we had no institutionalized church. I was 15, Pastor Musasono was 17, and Cebisa was 14, and Mletis must have been a little bit older than that. Jerry Lichela was about 23. In our group, the oldest was 23, Spue Zuma, Jerry Lichela, Themba Khadebe. The youngest was about 14. For the first 4 years of my Christian walk, 79, 80, 81, 82, we had no formal church. We met. We used to call this place prayers. It was a prayer meeting. We played soccer. After playing soccer, we met in a garage, not filling station, garage. Reverend Zuma, our pastor, who had 2 kids in our group, let us use his garage as a prayer room. Later on, that church kicked us out there. We crossed the road to Morocco North, Crèche. For the first 4 years of my walk with Christ, I did not belong to any institutionalized structure. It was later on in 1983 that Pastor Ray McCauley sent a guy to Soweto there, Andrew Knutze, and he started Rema Soweto. And that's when some of us began to go in there, and that's where we became institutionalized. Do you know why? Because for us to be who we are and to believe in what we believe, we don't have to be institutionalized. My religion, my culture takes place in a personal space. And Jesus Christ, my Lord, and the Holy Scriptures I believe in, defines church as 2 or 3 gathered in His name. Now, when you come later on and you want to regulate that, you are infringing on my religion. You are infringing on my personal belief. You are coming into a space where the Lord does not allow you to. Now, it's easy for these people who have since passed on to recognition and prominence to start calling on the regulation of religion. But allow me, let's go back. Let's go back to the 70s when Reverend Macaulay came out of the USA, and he was a bodybuilder. And let's go into how he started this ministry. He stood down the streets flexing his muscles. People came forward, he told them about it. That was the birth of Rema. Now, it seems like Reverend Macaulay has walked through a door that is now shutting in someone's face. Because today, if we regulated so-called church, and there was a guy who stood at the corners of Rabbi Road and Hans Kuman there next to Rema, and he flexed his muscles, and he called people to Jesus, and later on they met in his lounge, that man would be doing something illegal according to what the Sierra Commission is pressing for. As a matter of fact, for the first 4 years of our Christian life, we were called schizophrenics, or schizophrenics, that's what they called us. Because they said, during school hours, you're normal guys, but you dumb, you speak in tongues. I speak in tongues, by the way. But then the SACC that says that's complete confusion. But I still prophesy. But the chairman of the Cell Commission says God doesn't speak, so it's confusing. Now, when you call people who have gone through that passage, but now are on the other side, and you say they should regulate anywhere else coming in, what is going to happen there? What would have happened if the Cyril Commission was set up in 1978? Rema Bible Church would not have existed. They would not have given Reverend Ray Macaulay a license to preach, because Reverend Ray Macaulay did not have a degree in theology, as now the Cyril Commission and other institutions are pressing. They're looking at Rwanda, you see. In Rwanda, the president say, if you don't have a degree in theology, you can open a church. So it's like saying, if you don't have a master's degree in theology, you can be a Rastafarian. It's like saying if you don't have a bachelor's degree in theology, you cannot be a good Muslim. That's all foolishness. But let me tell you why we have come where we have. Because a government bent on exterminating the influence of the Judeo-Christian the influence of the Judeo-Christian religion and philosophy, it came. And it was offered a too simplistic solution by an ambitious, power-hungry group of Christian men who had forgotten their roots. When they came in obeying God, everybody laughed in their face. Now they are in there with the powers that be, and they are shutting that door in the face of people. Listen to me. Trying to regulate what you do is as dumb as, let's go back to my example, saying to the group that meets in Mimosa Mall, and the group that meets in Waterfront, and the group that meets in Cape Town, Canal Walk, and the group that meets in Crestamont, it's like saying to them, among yourself, choose who's right, who's wrong. It's in the space of our personal belief and personal practice of our convictions. We may not be regulated. When this started in 2015, I warned that there was more to this agenda than meets the eye. Because they started out friendly. Hey, we are concerned about the commercialization of religion. And I said, what commercialization? Because somebody's selling oil, somebody's selling water in church? I think that's foolishness, but they have a right to do that. No, we commercialize in religion. But now, let's go back. The most commercialized religious industries around the world, let's talk about South Africa, is halal and kosher. Halal, as an industry, which is the holy food of the Muslims, is a multi-billion industry. The Islamic Association is getting revenue from the association with this halal thing. Nobody's saying anything about it. And we're going to corner a small guy there who sells water and oil. We're going to corner Zondo there for selling water and Mukuba there. That's targeting a specific a community for purposes of clamping down on their belief. The money that these preachers make selling holy water oil, I think is foolishness to sell holy water and oil. But they have a right to if people want it. Now, the money that is leaving people's pocket is nothing compared to halal and the kosher industry. No, we are concerned about the people who died in Nigeria. That issue was not the religious. The building collapsing on TB Joshua's people is not the religious problem. It's a bylaw problem. It is an engineering problem. You see what I'm saying? And while we did that, nobody raised the question, why are so many Muslims dying in the pilgrimage to Mecca? Because it's none of our business. But then we come to the end of the road and a group of ambitious preachers buy into that. How are you going to regulate something that Jesus says it takes 2 or 3 just together and have as church? Church cannot be redefined by government, one. It cannot be redefined by the religious leaders who are cooperating with government, two. Because church was defined by Jesus. He says church is where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name. And that is my religious right. You're going to have to outlaw the Bible first. You're going to have to outlaw the Lordship of Christ upon my life, which you'll never do. For me to have a right to practice what I'm practicing, it does not have to be institutionalized. Let's go back to my example, my personal example. Pastor Ray Coley coming out of America to start Rema. We and this other group, they used to call us the Morocco group, meeting every day. We prayed Monday to Friday from 8 p.m. and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and went out evangelism. We did that for 4 full years. We were a church. We didn't have a name. We didn't have to have a name. We had no constitution. We didn't even have a pastor. For the first 4 years of my life, there was no pastor in our midst. We were just a group of youngsters who were exercising their constitutional right to freedom of association, freedom of conscience, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. Stop the foolishness. If I were the commissioner of the Civil Commission and I was concerned with the abuse of people, this is what I would have done. I would have looked into the problem and pulled in the relevant government agency. Oh, there are human violations, human rights violations. Call the HR, the Human Rights Commission. Oh, there is a laundering there. Call SARS in. Oh, there is rape there. Call SAPS in. For every problem Togo Kaluva and a group of his pastoral bandits are trying to solve, there is a government agency already existing there. What church people are not telling you, Kaluva, is they have enough problems of their own. In the 90s, there was a very powerful organization among charismatics started by Pastor Ray Coley, the IFCC. It was called the International Fellowship of Christian Churches. When they tried to regulate that, they replaced the word fellowship with federation. A lot of people left because they did not want to be controlled. Ed Rubert and the other people left. A lot of preachers stayed away because the IFCC as a federation now was putting on laws. They're putting in structures that a lot of people found too heavy to bear. Now, in their own religious groups, these reverends who are giving assurance that they're going to regulate religion could not regulate their own people. How are they going to do that? People who don't even believe in what they believe in. How are we going to regulate Nala there? He believes he has started a new religion. He has the right to do so. How are you going to regulate the people meeting in restaurants? Right now, the biggest Christian revolution around the world are the home churches. People are meeting in hundreds of millions in their churches, in their home churches. How are you going to regulate them? They are not only exercising their constitutional right, they are doing church the way Jesus said it should be done. Hands off my religion. And stop listening to these power-hungry preachers who have promised you a too simplistic solution to a complex situation. We may not be. Call it church regulation, religion regulation. We may not be because it's both our constitutional right, our custom and religion. Let me stop here. And by the way, the challenge is still out. Anybody who thinks we're talking nonsense, let's take out the constitution, put it here, and let's see who's wrong.